a second, it's preparing, sorry.
Yeah, mine says meeting is now streaming.
All right, we should be good to go then.
Okay. So I will call the September 28th, 2020 school board meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I'm going to stand. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's like the big civics test, I feel like. I'm saying it by myself, except Chris, I heard her, so thank you. Okay, then the roll call. Anita, would you do the roll call, please?
Sure. I am here. Chris Lau.
Here.
Rebecca Reber.
You see Rebecca.
I'm here.
Okay. Barb Wetstein.
Sorry. Here.
Brian Wopat. Sorry, I have the agenda on a different page. Trenton David Huseman.
And I did not, is he here?
Okay.
He's trying to get in right now.
Okay,
Okay. Gary Dunlap. And Cheryl Hancock.
here.
Okay.
Well, with 7 of the 7 school board members present, I would declare a quorum. Approval of the agenda. I would note that the agenda has been published and distributed and shared with local media. Are there any changes to the agenda at this time? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Gary, is there a second?
Second.
Anita? Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda as published. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Public participation, there is no public participation at this time, so we will move on to district administrators report.
Okay, good evening. Tonight I have one item that I want to report on, and what the item is about. It's about our ad hoc committee that was formed in determining how to move forward with memorials in the School District of Holmen. So this is particularly in response also to the memorial wall at Holmen High School. The committee met every Wednesday starting July 8th, and just the completion of the work just ended on September 2nd for a total of 9 meetings. The committee consisted of a diverse group of people, everywhere from we had school board members, we had students, staff, community members, alumni, and those with students recognized on the memorial wall. I just want to thank, and then we also, important to recognize our Director of Student Services, Jill Mason, and our high school principal, Wayne Sackett, also attended all those meetings with us. Our distinguished professor of servant leadership from Viterbo University, Tom Thibodeau, he also helped guide us in the committee, facilitating a lot of our work through discussions and decision-making processes. I just want to take this moment to thank all of those people for all their time and dedication to this very important topic for our Holmen community. The committee completed their work, and tonight you'll notice on the board agenda that there is a policy, a memorial policy that is here for the first reading tonight. The policy does state that all existing memorials would remain intact. They'd be grandfathered in. In regards to the memorials at Holmen High School that were removed for construction, the plaques on the wall, the committee recommended also that the district move those to a new space. And that would be determined once our construction starts to come to completion. And then I also wanted to let you know that I had reached out and have been continuously making calls to those families to just touch base with them and let them know what the outcome was and what they would like to do with their loved ones moving forward. And then also the policy in moving forward with memorials in the school district, the policy really was built around a fair and consistent way of moving forward with memorials in the district. We really focused a lot around one of the values, core values in the district of equity. And some of the, you'll notice some of the recommendations in the policy include things such as recognition in yearbooks, at graduation, and inclusion of if we have a student who passes in the district while they're a student in Holmen, that their picture would be with the graduating class collage. So a lot of work was done, a lot of great work, and just wanted to give you an overview about that work. So then when you do get to that part on the agenda and they have that first reading, if there's any discussion that you need to have, you have some background on that. So that is the district administrator report for this evening.
So are there any questions? Oh, Barb.
Yeah, just wondering if you'll be reaching out to the media, like maybe having Tom do a piece or something. Just there was so much ugly media surrounding that earlier that I think such a positive conclusion would be good to have that conveyed as well.
Thank you, Barb. We can definitely take that into consideration.
Anything else? I just want to say thank you to Dr. Mueller on top of everything else that was going on. She spent quite a bit of her time dedicating to this to really respond to a situation that arose. And what's interesting was that very, very few school districts in Wisconsin, if any, I mean, I think maybe one or two had actual policies that we could use to model after. We found a lot of policies in Minnesota. I know that Jill was able to locate those and share those with us. And Mr. Sackett, as Dr. Mueller said earlier, they sat in on these meetings and really were helpful and supportive and sharing the information. Dr. Thibodeau really did help heal that group of people as they came in. And so we, as Barb mentioned, it got a lot of attention, negative attention, but the people who were a part of it, I think went away in a much better place. And so that's always kind of the goal is of the district, is to make sure that people are heard and they felt really heard and listened to. So thank you, Dr. Mueller, for the work on that. And I think it's a great policy for years to come. It will be there to guide administrators because Holmen doesn't necessarily do things exactly the same as other districts. It talked about tradition and the Holmen tradition and the Holmen values. And so some great conversations that went on during that meeting or the committee work. So it is nice to have a Wednesday night though. So
Yes.
yes. So any other questions or comments?
It just seemed like a great outcome, that's all, if I have to say.
Yeah, and some of it was, I mean, you know, we talked about, I think one of the things is the inclusiveness. When we heard the parents come before us, we heard about students, they just wanted their student to be remembered. And moving forward, one of the outcome was that the student will be included with their classmates in their senior collage. Now that has happened for some of the students who passed, but it hasn't happened for all of them. And so that's part of the policy then. And so there'll be that guidance to ensure that anyone who passes as a student, again, it's up to the family, but they will be included in that senior collage that we have on all of the walls. And then just the identification, because on the memorial wall, there were students, but there were also alumni. And, you know, we just don't have the wall space to be able to do that for all of our alumni. So there were other means of memorials, whether they're permanent or those sorts of things, and they can be decided upon through leadership. So really a good outcome and a good work in progress. So that is on our consent agenda this evening for its first reading. Then I will move on, if there's no other questions or comments, to recognition and thank yous. Dr. Mueller.
Yeah, I have one item tonight, and what that is starting next week, we actually have our Wisconsin School Board recognition week. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank our school board for all their work. As we know, we are you are the critical link to our community. And it's you who serves our community and takes information and represents that stakeholder group. So also want to just thank the school board, take a moment to thank them for putting safety and learning at the forefront of all the work they do for our students and for their support around that. So thank you to all of you and for your service to our community. And enjoy celebrating our school board week next week.
Well, thank you. Okay, reports and discussion, then moving on. The first item is building return plans. And I will let you call on them. I think I'm going to mute myself. So
Yeah.
Dr. Mueller, I'll let you lead this part.
Right. So I'm just going to start here. I'm going to share my screen in a minute, but I just wanted to start with a few comments before we start the building return plans. So this evening we have our building leadership here to help and share with you building return plans. I feel like again and again, because as we keep working on them, we keep revising them to improve from the new guidance and things that we are learning. Right now we are monitoring, I want to make sure I get this out in public, we are monitoring multiple measures and factors. We give a status update every week on Wednesday, and it's published on our district website and on our Facebook page. One of the misconceptions out there right now is we have to be in what's called the green category, people feel, where it would say, oh, we can only have one positive case per 100,000 for our kids to be in person. And that is not the case. I just wanted to take time to share that really, when it comes to our measures, we're looking at not only our positive case rate, which is a positive measure and very important, but also our secondary measures and our factors, which you'll learn more about tonight, our mitigation factors and our resources and so on that we have in place. And then also, we've really have learned a lot from what we've watched with other districts, and we do hear about it, and we know there are districts around us that have returned to in-person learning. And what we've learned from them is that it is very advantageous to build your plans around a cohort of students and to reduce intermingling as much as possible. You have much greater success when you're able to do these things, and that it's much harder and more challenging in a larger setting as such as a high school. So I just wanted to set that foundation. And then, so Wednesday, we'll be making a decision Wednesday as to a possible return for Monday, October 12th. So with that, I'm going to share my screen, and then we're gonna just kind of start with our early childhood 4K. As we know, they have been in person for some, but with the amount of community spread in our metrics that we had in the past couple of weeks, they have moved now to a virtual mode coming up, and I'll let Sue talk about that more. And here we go. Let me just share my screen. Okay, Sue, go right ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As Dr. Mueller stated, we were in school. We started out the school year in person, and thanks to all of the hard work and the dedication of the staff, we did a pretty good job, we think, of implementing the mitigation strategies that are listed on the screen. We had several things in place, and we even received some feedback from parents that they were very happy about the strategies we did implement. As Dr. Mueller just also stated, it was decided last Wednesday that starting today, September 28th, we would transition to virtual learning. So once again, the teachers and the education assistants and everyone have been working really hard to make certain that students are successful in this format for learning. So we were able to send home some materials with the students on Thursday and Friday. And for virtual learning, it's different from the other schools because it's not as much screen time. The teachers are having Zoom meetings with each of their sessions. There's an AM and a PM session. And they're also going to be having one-on-one appointment times as needed if they notice that some students may need some additional support. We are using the Seesaw app, just as the elementary schools are using to post, just as the kindergarten through second grade are using to post activities and assignments, and also to provide feedback to the families on the student work. For asynchronous learning, which is a time that they can be on the screen that works out for the family, our staff have recorded stories as well as social emotional lessons for the students to listen to and respond to and engage in. And we just encourage all of our families that if they have any questions or concerns, that they should reach out to the teacher or the office staff. So far, day one, I heard went really well. Again, it was not an easy day. I think there were a lot of emotions by the staff, but it went well overall. And we'll see how the future days go, but we are definitely looking forward to having the students back whenever it is safe to do so.
Thank you, Sue. Now we're going to move on to our elementary overview.
Hello, Natalie Morgan. I'm going to present on behalf of the elementary team. They'll be around to answer questions if you guys have any after we're done presenting. I just want to first say thank you to the teacher teams. Over the last 3 months, we've been really working closely with our teacher teams, getting feedback from each plan to try to make the best possible plan for when we do return face-to-face. And the leadership team, on top of just being able to work together with buildings and grounds, nutrition, to be able to make a safe plan. So on the screen, you'll see different bullet points of the different areas for our return face-to-face. One of the first ones that I want to talk about is the 1 hour late start. At the elementary level, one of the reasons that we decided to go with a 1 hour late start is because it's going to allow us to continue to serve our students. Teachers are going to use that additional time to plan and implement virtual activities for any students who would not be able to attend in person. Without that additional time, it would be it wouldn't be possible to meet the needs of the kids face-to-face and those kids who are having to quarantine at home. So we wanted to give additional time to our teaching staff. It also will allow us to provide some services for our students if they need intervention, or some of our students with IEPs, in order to come in maybe before during that hour block to receive some additional services. Start and end time. Evergreen and Viking would go from 9:30 until 3:30, but students would be able to arrive on our grounds at 9 o'clock. Prairie View and Sand Lake would go from 9:40 to 3:40, with students being able to arrive at 9:10 for supervision. What would our daily instruction look like? We would keep it similar to how our virtual learning would, pretty parallel to how virtual learning is going right now, with those 2 instructional blocks. 30 minutes of that SEL instruction, social emotional, which we know is our focus at the elementary level. And then a 45-minute related arts. We typically have a 60-minute related arts, but with the hour shortened day, we did have to shorten our related arts time during the day as well. One of the main reasons for those 2 60-minute instructional blocks is so that teachers can give the direct instruction for 30 minutes, and then our support staff can use that second 30 minutes to come and support students who are receiving intervention or who receive additional supports throughout their day. Lunchroom protocols. When we talked about our plan previously, we said that we would just be having K through 2 in the cafeteria, and that is still our plan. We're going to have grade level cohorts. So our K1, 2, we were able to stagger to get them into the cafeteria. Our 3, 4, 5, some of us are able to utilize some larger spaces like our gyms for our students to eat in there. And if we can't accommodate that for every grade level, then the students would be eating in their own classrooms. But they would be walking to the cafeterias to get their lunches for the day. Recess. We did originally, when we talked, say that each grade or each classroom was going to be a cohort, but that what we found was that was a little bit, it didn't work well with our supervision. So each cohort is going to be a grade level. So 5th grade can go outside at recess at the same time, with the emphasis still being placed on classroom cohorts. So the whole grade is the cohort, but we still do want to keep those classes separate from each other. Some different mitigation strategies that we plan on, or that we're implementing, are just the grade level cohorts, like I said, social distancing. I have my notes here, sorry. Staggered entrances and exits throughout the day, additional cleaning and sanitizing, and limited movement throughout the day. So scheduled bathroom breaks for each grade level to help with the intermingling, and then our support staff scrubbing in and scrubbing out. Any questions on our elementary plan?
Here, I'll stop sharing for a minute in case someone has a question on elementary at this point in time thus far.
So when you say additional cleaning, is that cleaning that's going to be done by custodial staff, or is that classroom teachers that will be doing additional cleaning?
Well, it will be a combination, because if students, for example, are eating snack in their classroom, the teacher would be responsible for then using the quad stack sanitizer after they eat their snack.
And where will the students be?
They could be at recess during that time. I don't know specific schedules to know when snacks during the day. They could be having a bathroom break is another option that we've talked with teacher teams for. So they could be, lining up to go to the bathroom.
I just know when they were talking about the middle and the high school and passing times, and they talked about having the students come in and sit or stand and do
5
some
minutes.
work before. But elementary students, I'm suspecting, will be less likely to do that. So I was just curious about that, how that would be handled. Okay. I don't see any other questions, so I think we can.
You're on
move on.
mute, Dr. Mueller.
Sorry, thank you. Are we ready to continue on then, Cheryl, with middle school? Okay.
All right, good evening, everyone. Well, thank you again for taking some time to go through our process that we're going to be using at the middle school to return. Just like Mrs. Morgan said, so many thank yous to everyone who has helped out with this process. We too have had to learn about flexibility as things have changed over time. And our middle school teachers, just like all of our teachers, have been great at giving feedback and working through this process to create our plans. Our plan wouldn't be possible without our team leaders and everything that they have done to bring that feedback to me. And I also am just so thankful that I work on the leadership team that I do. Everybody's come together in this process to put together great plans to get this going. And then finally, I have to thank our office administrative assistants. They are the front lines and have just done an outstanding job in the face of this new learning. And so I just have to thank them as well. So now kind of getting to the plan, as we're looking at this, our classroom setup remains the same as the last time that I presented to you. And just talking about, we are going to have 6 feet of social distance in our classrooms, and we're able to achieve that by splitting our grade levels in half. We've gotten more specific about movement in our classrooms and really talking about trying to limit that movement to our students and getting specific about the protocols that we'll use for movement if they have to get up to get something, and what they'll have to do with hand sanitizer or washing their hands if they're going to be touching different surfaces. We've also talked about that with materials in the classrooms too. Some of our classrooms, such as PE and art and tech ed, they will use some of the same materials. And so trying to get more specific on what do we have to do for our students to make sure that they are practicing safe protocols if they are going to be touching something, whether that's washing hands, whether that's using hand sanitizer, to make sure that that is safe for everyone. Our start and end time is just a little bit different. We'll be starting 5 minutes earlier and ending 5 minutes late. Right now, that puts our time at 7:30 for a start and 2:45 for an end of the day. One change that we will be looking at for our families is the building will be open when that first bus arrives. And so for our families, that first bus is looking at arriving right now at approximately 7:10. And so that is when we would be opening up our building for students to come in, and they would go right to their advisory classroom. So as we look at this, One thing that we looked at is the same thing that our elementary schools looked at as well, is how do we make sure that we are putting together a plan that can provide high quality education for our students when they are with us in school, when they are learning asynchronously, but then also to plan for when students are out for illness, symptoms, and if they are out due to being exposed to someone with COVID-19 or having it themselves. And we quickly realized that they are basically going to be planning for 3 different things every day. And so in order to accommodate that, Mr. Sackett and I at the middle school and high school have looked at a model where we will have students coming 2 days a week in person. So there will be a group that comes Monday and Thursday in person, and then they would learn Tuesday and Friday asynchronously. And then another group that comes Tuesday, Friday in person, and then Monday, Thursday asynchronously. And then both groups of students would learn from home on Wednesdays, and we would continue with the virtual intervention process that we have in the morning, and then students would have afternoon work time in the afternoon. Another reason for that day is we know that we will have students that are going to be out, and they may need to check in with our staff. And so in order to meet all of those needs, we really looked at needing that time on Wednesday afternoon for our teachers to make sure that they're prepared to present that for all of our students. Now, something that our parents are going to see is they're going to see those schedules that are sent home to them. Whether they're in the Monday, Thursday in-person group or the Tuesday, Friday in-person group, they will be receiving a mailing from Holmen Middle School that will have the information about the schedules that their students will have and what they need to follow so that they know that information. On the asynchronous day, we're going to be providing a sample schedule for them. And so it's really a schedule that outlines what their students should be doing throughout the day during that asynchronous learning. We've heard from a lot of families that the schedule that we have had during virtual learning has really helped to what we compared to in the spring. And so we wanted to continue with that. Just like the elementary school, we're working to have cohorts as well. Our cohorts are going to be that grade level that is split in half. Now, they're going to be with their house in the grade level, but because of high math and some other needs, we do have some cross housing that happens there. And in order for our students to continue to get their encore choices, they will be mixing in their grade level cohort of half that grade level when they go to encores. It's extremely important for us to be able to offer our students their core classes, but also for us to be able to offer their encore classes, which they've signed up for and they take a lot of interest in. Not that they don't take interest in their core classes, but many times their encore classes are those classes that they really look forward to. For our lunchroom protocols, we are looking at an extended lunch. And right now we're looking at 2 different cohorts that eat at different times that will switch out in the lunchroom. And then 1 cohort that is either going to be eating in a classroom or possibly an alternate location. We're still trying to look into the details of what that would be. We also have our mitigation strategies, which is 6 feet of social distancing in our classrooms, the hand sanitizer that's available, as well as the Quad Stat 5 to help that for our students. Just as we talked about before, we're looking at our release times being staggered for our students so that we don't have all of our students in the hallways at the same time, because anyone that's been at a middle school when classes are released and you're in the hallway, that is a time where there's a lot of energy to see other people, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to control that. During this time, we still know that students are going to need to access the main office, our student services, or our nurse's office. And so we're setting up protocols to make sure that we have systems in place for our students to be able to access those things, but also to make sure that we maintain some control on the number of students that we have moving in the hallways. We're doing the same for our bathrooms, for our lockers, which we won't be using at first because we're using backpacks. And then hopefully by doing all of that, we're able to work with our students and keep them in those groups that they have to be safe, but also to make sure that they have the classes that they enjoy and to make sure that we have the safety protocols in place to make this plan possible. And so that's a very quick outline of a lot of work that's been put forward by. And so if anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Okay, you were very thorough. Thank you, Mr. Vogler. Now I'll move on and sharing for the high school here.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Miller. I was just waiting for you to pull that up. Hi, everybody. I'm Wayne Sackett, and I would be remiss to not add my own set of thank yous, much as my colleagues did. First, a shout out to our guiding coalition, and for those of you who aren't aware what that is, that's our team leaders, our department leaders within our building. You know, we've started this work, you know, when tasked to get a reopening plan, whether it was virtual, a hybrid model, you know, and address all those things. We started this work back in July, and I credit our guiding coalition for coming in, meeting in person in early August, but we started this work in July in virtual meetings, and they've just done an amazing job of giving feedback and carrying a message back to our staff, and then bringing that message back to us as an administrative team. Also our staff as a whole for their feedback, both in emails, feedback to our guiding coalition members, as well as the listening sessions that we've had of trying to develop this plan. Certainly my administrative colleagues, both at the district level and the building level, been a big support. And it's been great to learn things from, you know, sometimes you don't think the elementary students and the high school students wouldn't have a whole lot in common, but sometimes there's more in common than people realize. So I'm just grateful to those folks. And then our administrative colleagues around the area and across the state, kind of seeking some guidance and inputs of things that have worked well in other districts, and things that haven't gone so well, and sharing some of those things with our staff. So thanks to all those folks and all the input and guidance as we've developed this plan. I'm not going to have to expand too much, as there are a lot of similarities between the middle school and the high school, just because our setups are very much the same. So I'll talk a little bit about classroom setup, movement to materials. That's very similar to the middle school in terms of, you know, 6-foot social distancing and our cleaning protocols that we have in place. Markings on what desks students are going to be able to sit in. So they have assigned seats, markings on the floor to help with social distancing, and then movement, not only within the classroom, but out of the classroom. You know, our high school students are a little more adept at saying, hey, I need to go to the restroom, and we want to allow them to go to the restroom, but we want to do so in a safe manner. So protocols in place for them to sign out and go to the restroom and then return in case somebody else are needing to go to the bathroom. Also materials, plan in place. Earlier this year, we sent out in their virtual plans that students and families were going to need some of their personal materials, as we didn't want to be in the habit of sharing calculators or sharing some of those common classroom utensils. So we've shared a supplies list, and then for some of those things that we do need to share, we're continuing to work on our cleaning protocols. In terms of start and end time, we too at the high school are a little 5 minutes earlier start time and 5 minutes later start time. So we would start our day with instruction at 7:35 and end at about 2:50. And that's in part to leave enough passing time, as mentioned in previous meetings that we've shared information, to allow for the dwell time of the chemical during cleaning in between classes, as well as just travel throughout the high school building. So we've got plenty of passing time in place, and that's kind of the end and start of our day. Daily instruction, much as Mr. Vogler shared, we have 2 cohorts, and they're a little bit different. The high school broken up by alphabet. We've taken, each of our counselors takes a section of the alphabet, and they stay with that student all 4 years. And so we've taken each counselor, half of their alphabet, into one cohort, cohort A, and the other half of their alphabet, put it in cohort B, and then split those up. So Monday and Thursday, cohort A would be attending in person, and cohort B would be asynchronous. And then we would flip-flop those 2 cohorts on the Tuesday, Friday. And then Wednesday, of course, is an intervention day with intervention for all of our students that need supports and helps in areas that they need that help. And then work planning day in the afternoon for our staff to follow that. So our students, it gets to be a little bit challenging because they might have the same language 9 class, for instance, together, but some of them then go to music, or they go to Woods class, or they might go to their algebra class. So it's tough to really keep them in that cohort. So what we've done is taken that 2 cohort model, and then signage in the hallways, kind of depicting, you know, how they're supposed to walk, and they pretty much walk down the right and left side of the hallway, coming and going, with the 6-foot social markings, and then allow for that cleaning period in between classes, so we can make sure all the equipment is cleaned in between. Our lunchroom protocols, we're still working on those procedures a little bit, but in general, we'll be able to stagger release. We've done this in the past, and work with our kitchen staff. Like when we've had an exceptionally large lunch, first lunch, you know, we let our study hall students go a little bit early so we can start working them through the lunch line in the kitchen to help maintain social distancing. We're looking at utilizing our common space. So the old commons that we're referring to at this time will be Commons A, utilizing that space, as well as Gym A, and if needed, the LGI, so we can maintain social distancing and keep our students safe while they're eating, and limiting the number of students at the table. Lastly, of course, all of our mitigation strategies in terms of masks and 6-foot social distancing, hand sanitizer. You know, our QuadStat 5 is the product that we're using for cleaning purposes in between classes. And then of course, you know, protocols. Our LMC people have worked on a protocol for how we're going to use the LMC. Our student services have been developed a plan for how we use the student services. It's a pretty busy place at the high school with a lot of students in and out. So we've had to come up with plan and systems for how our students will utilize that service, as well as nurses and in our support services, and, you know, taking into things like not just social distancing and hand sanitizer, but things like face shields that have been provided to us, you know, from the funds that we've had, as well as barriers that Ben Gappa and John Daly have built for us with the plexiglass barriers to have all of our folks use those to keep things safe. Have everything detailed in a nice 14-page document that I will certainly share with the school board, so you can read down all of the details that I was not able to cover.
Okay, any questions for high school? As you can see, it's a much more complex operation. So they're working hard on the mitigation strategies and how to go about it.
I see Barb has a question.
Yeah. So Mr. Sackett, have you guys had a chance to look at how it divides alphabetically per courses that the kids are enrolled in?
Yeah, that's a great question, Barb. We have done some test cases. One of the more challenging ones seems to be band. I can't remember if I shared this the last time I shared information with you, but we took the cohorts that we've made and then looked at band is really big. So it just worked out 63 students in one half of the cohort and 60 in the other. So that's usually one of the more challenging ones to try and divide up. And then of course that cohort is divided in half again for social distancing purposes. We would use the stage and the Fine Arts Center and the band room itself to even break that cohort into a smaller section. So that's a really great question, Barb. And we've tested it in a few places. We haven't checked on in every class. Also, since you bring that up, I'll share with you, Ryan and I have worked closely. We're trying to work with our families. Some of our families that have students in the middle school, the high school, would prefer to have their students come on the same day. So we want to make sure that happens for our families. But we've also had a request for a family to have their students come on separate days. And that's part of, I think, in response to the bandwidth and the connectivity that they have in home. So one student's in person, say at the high school, and the middle school student is home on their asynchronous day. And then of course that would flip flop. So we're trying to work with our families to meet their needs as well.
How is it going to work, after class is done? Just natural to have a student want to stop by the teacher's desk and have a conversation, and the teacher's going to need to do their cleaning, the spraying or whatever that cleaning is. How is that going to work, Wayne?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we've suggested to our staff is, end class a little bit early so you can start those cleaning procedures even before the release time starts. So depending what that is and what that looks like, different classes have a little bit different setup. So we didn't want to, come out and define everything, but you can end class a few minutes early. Students can get their belongings gathered up, and then you can start that cleaning process. But hopefully some of those questions are being answered during class when there's some intervention. But we also know that some of that's still going to happen naturally on its own, and try to account for that with stopping class a little bit early.
I think that's what kids are really hungry for, is that kind of interaction. And then also I'm wondering about the construction. How is that affecting the high school?
They're really coming along. There's still some pieces that they're working on and finishing up. As I see Mr. Gasper smile. And so they're wrapping a few of those things up. Hopefully they'll have the second half of the commons in the school store and some of those places done ahead of schedule. That's my wishful thinking. And then we'll be able to use this great big beautiful commons area and not have to use Gym A. But the main parts of things are done, at least in terms of all the new spaces. And they have some of the remodeled spaces already done. So the student services area has already been completed. They've punch listed the staff lounge, which we're not encouraging staff to get together in the staff lounge, but that space is done. And the old choir room, which is a new science classroom, is completed, and the old band room, which is the new choir room, is completed. So those spaces are really looking good, and we're kind of trying to get settled.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, well, that leads right in then to Mr. Gasper, and he's going to share about nutrition services.
All right, well, thank you for having me here today. Not an awful lot has changed, I think, from the last time we presented, but we're going to be doing in all of our schools a lot of the same things, such as having disposable products instead of reusable trays, trying to eliminate any sort of cross-touching of things. Condiments are all going to be prepackaged, and if they're not, our staff will be serving them to kids. If it's a condiment that's in a cup or something like that. Traditional salad bars are going to be replaced with what we're calling the unusual salad bar, and that's going to be, we're going to bag up lettuce and maybe a bag with cucumbers and tomatoes in it, and the kids can pick a couple bags to make their salad. Close as we can get to actually having a salad bar, and we feel that's a real important part of our program, so we wanted to continue with that. Fruit will be prepackaged or served by staff. Sanitation stations, Mr. Daly and Mr. Gappa have worked very hard to acquire all kinds of hand sanitizing stations that we can put throughout our kitchens for the students to use. We'll be doing rigorous cleaning practices, washing, rinsing, and sanitizing. Face coverings are going to be worn by food service personnel at all times. And in addition, when students come through, not only will we be wearing masks, we have face shields that the staff will be wearing when they're serving kids as an extra layer of protection. We're going to ask parents as much as possible to not send cash. If they can either send a check into the district office or put money in online in their family account as much as possible, so we eliminate as much cash handling as possible. Lunch periods, as many of the principals have mentioned, have been adjusted to allow more time so we can get cleaning done, and it will also help us keep spacing between the students as they come through. And then meals for students in the virtual learning environment. There's a group of students out there, obviously, that are 100% virtual the whole year. We still need to make sure we're offering food for those folks. And in addition to our students that are off on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or Thursday, whatever day they're off. So what we're looking at right now is switching. We won't be able to continue with our delivery program, obviously, if the buses are delivering students. So we're looking at a bulk frozen meal kits where we would supply all the food that the kids would need for the week for however many days they're not in attendance. And we would have that picked up probably on Wednesdays at the high school. We're still working on plans and developing a menu for that. Go ahead, you can move it there. So elementary schools, again, breakfast is going to be served in the cafeteria, but eaten in the classroom. Although there may be some kids that will eat in the cafeteria there. Lunch will be kind of the same model where they will come through the serving line, practicing social distancing, disposable trays. Our younger groups will eat in the cafeteria. We've separated those groups out so we can have them safely in the cafeteria, leave, we can sanitize those tables, and then have the next group come in. So that will provide some normalcy for those kids. Again, I mentioned the face shields. We're going to discourage sharing or trading of food between kids. Normally, we do have student helpers help us through special events. This year, we won't be doing that. All touch surfaces are going to be disinfected and sanitized before the next cohort comes through. And then again, lunch periods have been adjusted. Middle school and high school have a lot of the same things. Probably the biggest difference here will be the last bullet item, the a la carte items. We will still have those available for students in our middle school and high school, but the items are going to be displayed in a way where they can grab one item instead of having to touch all of them to get to their one item. And then a la carte again is going to need to be purchased with the student's lunch account. So again, we're going to encourage families to please keep money in those student accounts. And then high school, much of the same things. In fact, all of the same things. The one thing I will tell you, the good news is on Wednesday, the health inspector is coming to inspect the new kitchen. And we plan on moving our delivery operation from the middle school to the high school Friday after the deliveries go out. So hopefully on Monday, we'll be producing in our brand new kitchen. It's absolutely fabulous. They've done a great job with it. And we're really excited to be able to get in there and when the kids come back, have a lot more offerings than what they're used to. Any questions? That was easy.
Okay. Thank you, Mike, for sharing. Now I'm going to open it up here for Mr. Daly and share the screen for our buildings and grounds here.
Thank you, Dr. Mueller. We've been really working hard developing strategies and protocols for cleaning. You've heard some of the principals. I know Ryan and Wayne both, and I think Natalie mentioned the QuadStat 5. If you're not familiar with that, that is a disinfectant that is a viricide, which is really important. It is effective against COVID and requires only a 5-minute dwell time as compared to 8 or 10 minutes with some other chemicals. So we're really leaning on this product to help keep our students and staff safe. As I said, we've developed cleaning strategies and protocols. We continue to develop those. We continue to learn and keep that fluid. For instance, opening up the 4K gave us some really good practical experience of how we would take care of our classrooms as cohorts changed in the 4K area. We've been working with our custodians. I meet with my head custodians regularly, and we've been reviewing these procedures and strategies. Cheryl asked earlier about teachers and EAs. Yeah, we can't do it alone, especially in the high school and middle school level, where we will be changing classes every hour or hour and a half. And the teachers we will expect teachers and EAs to disinfect and clean those tables and desk surfaces and touch points in between classes to minimize the risk with the COVID. Just recently, we talked about having food being consumed in some of the classrooms. Unfortunately, with this viricide, any kind of viricide, it's not a food grade product. So those surfaces where we're going to have students eating lunch in the classrooms will have to be rinsed prior to eating, after they've been disinfected with the Quadstat 5. We expect people to take care of their own technology for the most part. In other words, keeping their keyboards and computers clean. That's going to be up to the individuals with those computers and printers and so on. As far as training, we have created a common cleaning and disinfectant procedures. We've been training the custodial staff for those new procedures and what we have to do differently this year, obviously. Hand washing and sanitizer. Hand washing is proven to be most effective with soap and water. However, some of our classrooms, especially in the middle school and high school, don't have them. So hand sanitizer will be available in those places and other classrooms too. And as Mike mentioned, sanitizing stations will be set up at entries in the cafeteria areas. Drinking fountains have been shut off, so you cannot drink directly from the drinking fountain. However, we've been able to keep the bottle filler stations running. We've got new ones at Sand Lake. Other buildings in the past few years, we've added water filling stations. So we're going to encourage students to bring their own water bottles and fill from there. Prairie View, we've ordered some water bottle stations. Those have got some unique drinking fountains in them. And we expect to have them here first part of October. Ventilation, we are going to follow the standards put forth by ASHRAE as far as heating and air conditioning the spaces. All buildings will run an occupied schedule prior to the return of staff. We will start units up at least an hour before occupancy and run at least an hour after occupancy. We will set the outside air ventilators a little more open this year to allow more outside air in, to keep flushing that inside air out as much as we can. And we will continue to monitor a little more vigorously this year the carbon dioxide in the occupied classrooms to ensure that we are ventilating as much as we possibly can. We want to maintain, and we've been trying to maintain, an inventory of critical supplies for sanitation. If anybody has an in on getting Clorox wipes, I'd love to hear from you. That's one of the hardest things we've most difficult thing to try to get. We purchased some specialized equipment such as sprayers from some of our CARES Act funds. These sprayers will be a part of our deep cleaning process. We intend to, I quote unquote, deep clean every space in the buildings at least once per week using these sprayers, these electrostatic sprayers, which actually using the same chemical, the Quadstat gets the molecules of that Quadstat in and around and underneath and sticking to everything that you sprayed onto as far as the desks and tables and such go. We don't have enough equipment or time to do these every night, but again, with our other mitigation that we're doing with the cleaning during the day and the evening. We think this will work out really well. Obviously, if we have any kind of outbreak at all, we will be doing more than once a week deep cleaning. We've been procuring personal protective equipment, gloves, masks, face shields, and such. Somebody had mentioned the plexiglass barriers. I don't know, Ben, you can probably answer. I don't know how many of those have been made, at least 70 to 100, maybe more than that. But we've made most of them ourselves, I think all of them. And just all in all, we've done a lot of planning, a lot of procedures have been put in place, and we believe we're ready to bring kids back to school when the time comes. Any questions?
Okay.
Cheryl, I don't have a question, just a comment though. John, I just want to say thank you for, and to everybody who presented, just thank you for all the precautions that you're taking. Having two kids who work in other districts on the other side of the state, I can tell you, we're so fortunate in Holmen because so many other districts do not prepare like we do and don't give the staff members the tools and the disinfectants. One of my daughters has a bottle of Dawn dish soap and water and a roll of paper towels, and that's their disinfectant. So I'm so grateful, and we are very fortunate. So thank you.
Thank you. We have one more presenter this evening for our return plans, and that
Before
would
you
be,
do that though,
okay.
I know that Dr. Mueller, you shared with me that John had some foresight to purchase some of that sanitizing equipment prior to the outbreak. And again, John, thank you for always thinking ahead. And it was a cost that we didn't have to incur, but it had been part of another equipment purchase. So who would have thunk? But thank you again, John. So yes.
Yeah, they put a lot of time and thought into how do we clean and clean appropriately, and how we can get ahead of it if we are aware of possible COVID, like how do we get ahead of it and what cleaning procedures do we have in place and how do we take care of it instantly. So they've been doing a great job. All right, lastly, we have our transportation department in that. So Ms. Hobbs is going to present on that. I'll share my screen here.
Good evening, board. So I'm going to talk a little bit about transportation, and as some of you may not know, we are already transporting quite a few students. We have our parochial schools that we're transporting since August, and we have some in-person students that are coming to school. So about almost all of our drivers are doing something in the district. Our drivers, our EAs, are all working right now. And if they're not working, they're delivering food for Mr. Gasper. So we're keeping them very busy. So they're living what we're going to tell you right now. They're already doing everything that we're talking about. So the first one is student capacity. Capacity would be limited for physical distancing when we can. Right now, every student has their own seat. You're probably going to see buses go by on the road that have maybe 4, 5, or 6 students on them. That's better than putting them in a van and having them sitting right on top of each other. So they are getting very good physical distancing on there. We are using seating charts to make sure that we know if there would be an outbreak, that we would know who was sitting by who within 6 feet of that other student. So those are implemented. We would try to keep families together. They could sit 2 or 3 to a seat if they're the smaller students, and with daycare sitting together also. And for our drivers, we asked them if they would want some kind of a barrier to make them feel safer. So we have put in, believe it or not, it looks like a shower curtain in some of the buses, and some of them have plexiglass that we tried at the beginning. So they are protected if they feel not comfortable driving. And then, of course, employees are self-monitoring every time they come to work, and making sure their health is good. Cleaning procedures, we do spray every vehicle after every use. So in between, if we have any drop-offs, then empty the bus and then go back and pick up students. We would have to clean all those places. We have the quad stat that is used. Every bus has a cleaning kit. There are with sanitizer, towels. We have extra masks on the bus that students come on a bus without one. So we have all of that stuff available. And we also will do the deep routine cleaning, which is the ionizer. We have Ben Gappa gave our drivers some training on how to use the machine. So they're going to walk through every vehicle once a week and make sure it's totally sprayed and for disinfecting. Face coverings, we all have face coverings and students were required to wear them. The drivers are required to wear them. So everyone will have one on, the EAs on the bus. Students with special needs, we know that there are students that may not be able to wear a mask for their physical disabilities. So we want to make sure that they are kept away from the other students for that reason. So we will have a seating chart for them also. Drop off and pickup zones at schools where we're kind of thinking that once we get back in full swing that a lot of parents will be driving. So we're anticipating more traffic. So we're gonna keep our buses and parents separate as we do already. And so we're working with schools to modify that because letting students on and off the vehicles may take longer. And then self-transportation. Parents and our students planning to self-transport are encouraged to let us know if they are going to be doing that so we can staff wisely.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hobbs. So that would conclude our presentation from all of our leaders around our return plans for when we are able to safely return in person. We're closely monitoring our trend right now. Just watching it, it has been almost taking a mirror image in the other direction, which is a positive direction for us to get our students back into our schools. So we're watching that closely. So any other questions before we would move on?
I do have a question for Beth. If a student presents at a bus stop without a mask, do we have masks that we can give them? I know you go into some stores and that's what they do. They'll hand you a mask and you're nodding your head. That's what the plan is.
Yeah, every bus has a package of 10 of them, and then we have them in individual Ziploc baggies, and we will have them take one. We are encouraging them to give them back to us so that we have a wash machine and dryer that we're washing all of our rags and masks so that we can keep recirculating them through. So yes, we do have masks available and they'll have to wear one when they're on the bus. Or
Any other questions? Sorry about that, Dr. Mueller. So I do believe that is the completion of the back to school plans. And any questions for anyone that presented earlier?
Is there any, like a 2-minute update on sports? What's going on?
Sure. Right now, they are virtually happening because of the spike we had in cases, and we were in the red category this past week. So that's where we're at right now. We're hoping to get to where we're in an orange category so that we can resume some practices and some competitions. But you'll notice quite a few of the majority surrounding districts now have also moved to virtual for their co-curriculars at this point in time. There's just been quite a rise and spread around the state of Wisconsin in the past couple of weeks. So hopefully we can have people practice good mitigation strategies and wear masks and wash hands, and we'll get back to where we can have our kids being active in those activities soon. So.
Okay, thanks.
And I know, Gary, again, questions have risen about why are we looking at the county? Why aren't we looking at the municipalities? And again, if you look at the municipalities in our area, they're all red as well. And some of the counties around us are also red. It's not just La Crosse County with the college students that are red. So, but as Dr. Mueller said, hopefully we're moving in the right direction. Just to clarify, Dr. Mueller, if we would find ourselves in a better situation with sports, the decision would be made on that on Wednesday, and then we would begin, say, coming back in person that next Monday. But when we are looking at academics and in person, we would make that decision on a Wednesday, but there would be more time to allow for families to prepare to send their students to in-person school, correct? We're giving them some
Yeah,
time.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
That
and
activity-
vice versa. If
Yeah.
we were in person and made that decision that we needed to go virtually, we would not do it immediately unless we had an outbreak in a building or in the district.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, then I think that's it. And I think we had said, Dr. Mueller, for the sake of time, that those who presented, if you want to remain on, you certainly are welcome to remain on and participate and listen. Otherwise, we appreciate your time this evening. We know you've been putting in a lot of extra time. So if you want to sign off, that certainly is okay as well. So thank you so much, everyone, for all the work you've done. Then I would note Wisconsin Forward ACT AP results are up next. So Lindsay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen quickly with you. All right, everyone can see that?
Yep, I can.
Okay, great. My name is Lindsay Sipe, and I am the ACP coordinator and the AP coordinator at the high school. And I was asked to present on our AP data from the 1920 school year tonight. So I'm going to be doing that. First of all, this is our mission statement, and hold on one second, I'm just going to get rid of my own picture here. Okay, so the mission statement for us: preparing students for tomorrow through an engaging and inclusive educational community today. And we'll move on to why students take AP courses, or what are the benefits for AP courses. And there's a lot of benefits that students can see by taking these courses. It can save students time and money by providing a pathway to earn college credits or advanced placement while still in high school. It can help students stand out in the college application process, give students a head start on a college degree, and provide flexibility to move into upper level courses sooner, both at the high school and at a college level. Help students acquire the skills and habits they'll need to be successful in college. And then can also improve students' skills, whether it be problem solving or writing skills, things like that, while they're taking these AP courses at the high school. So the courses that we offered at Holmen High School for the 1920 school year are listed here. So we offered English language composition, English lit composition, psychology, US history, calculus AB. We have offered Calc BC as well, but last year we offered Calc AB. Statistics, US government, computer science A, biology, chemistry, and then programming in Java. And students can take an exam at the end of the course, and students earning a score of 3 or greater on the AP exam are likely to receive some college credit. Each college kind of handles that a little bit differently regarding how many credits a student would earn based off of their score. But typically, if a student earns a 3, 4, or 5 on an AP exam, they can be granted college credit. So I think this is interesting, and when I present each year, I think it's just crazy to look back at where we've come in regards to AP in Holmen. So in 2000 and 2001, we had 54 students taking AP courses. We offered 51 exams, and we offered 7 courses. So compared to our 13 courses that we offered last year. And here's a little bit of participation and trend data from 2014 and then to this year. And so this past school year, we had 222 students that participated in AP courses, and we facilitated 258 exams over the 13 courses. So we did have multiple students take multiple AP exams. Some students took up to four AP exams, which is intense, but it's exciting to watch those growing numbers. And I would say with COVID, obviously COVID impacted AP just like it impacted everything else. So we did have some students decide not to take the exams towards the end of the school year. The exams last year were all offered online. So it was not that face-to-face paper pencil exams. They were all online, and it went from a 4-hour exam to about a 45-minute to an hour exam put on by College Board. So a lot of changes for staff members, a lot of changes for kids as they kind of navigated the new waters of the AP exams last year. So here's a little bit of a school summary of AP participation, and again, kind of in graph form as to the number of students who scored a 3 or above each year. And so last year we had 65% of students that scored a 3 or above on their exams. And we had a total of 116 students that scored 3 or above, which is really great. It's incredible. And then here is a breakdown as to who are participating in AP courses. And we don't have freshmen participated in AP courses. Obviously, the most amount of students is in our senior class, but we have a fair amount of sophomores and juniors as well that are participating in AP courses. And then here is a breakdown as to how many students tested for each course, and then what percentage of those students earned a 3 or greater in each class. One thing that I want to add is, as you look at the numbers, we did have a few students test in other areas that did not take specific courses. So we had a few students take the psychology exam, maybe that didn't take AP Psych, or taking a calc exam that hadn't taken the calc AB course. So that's where our numbers fluctuate a little bit. But you can see 100% of our computer science A students earned a 3 or above, 100% of our psych students earned a 3 or above. So a lot of high 3, 4s, and 5s, which is really great for students, 64% of students. And then the last part is some other assessment data that Kim Edwards asked me to kind of include. This will be the only presentation on assessment accountability due to lack of reports that were released and the assessments not offered due to COVID. Last school year. So the forward was not offered, aspired was not offered. And then ACT was offered, but it was inconsistent throughout the state. So there are no public reports that were released. So I will stop my sharing. If anyone has any questions that I can help with.
Any questions? Brian? Oh, I'm not hearing you, Brian. And you are unmuted.
Can type it in the chat box if you'd like.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Now we
I
can. Yep.
All right, yay. I had heard, Lindsay, that AP had moved to students registering in the fall versus in the spring to taking the exam. And I know COVID played a part in students not taking the exam. Do you have numbers in terms of the number of students that signed up in the fall and then didn't take it in the spring?
So yes, and that's a good point, Brian, that I should have added. So our students in the past have actually registered for AP exams much later in the school year. Students, their priority deadline was in October last school year, which in my opinion is a very, you have to make that decision really early then to register for an AP exam in a course that you've only been in for a month and a half. Our numbers, Brian, I can get you the exact number. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there were very few students that decided not to take the exam. I expected more, truthfully, just in the shift and the stress of being virtual and just the AP stress exam as well. But I think that our numbers were much less. We just had a handful of students that decided, given the circumstances, to not test.
That's good to know. Thank you. Because I think
Yeah.
all AP teachers were kind of on edge thinking that,
Yes.
you know, that whole decision, making it earlier. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? I don't see any, so thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming and presenting to us.
Yeah,
Very
thanks
well
for
done.
having me.
Thank you. And then Melissa, I see, is here for employee handbook language.
Yes, all right, so I will start with employee handbook. Let me share my screen so we can take a look at that language. So this language is specific to teachers, specifically teachers subbing for other teachers during their prep periods. We realize that there's going to be an even greater shortage of substitutes than we've seen in prior years as we move forward and hopefully bring back all of our students and staff into the buildings through this COVID pandemic. And we've thought it best to utilize the talents of the teachers that we currently have on our staff, many whom already have built relationships and know those students within their buildings. So we are presenting language that will just be through June 30th of this year. We can always come back and take a look at it later as well to add back into the handbook. But for now, it would just be offering teachers an hourly rate of pay to substitute during their prep period. There would have to be mutual agreement for them to sub during their prep period. So it would not be, no one would be forced to prep or to substitute during their prep period, but rather offered an opportunity to take on that responsibility. To determine the rate of pay, I did survey 4 local districts. Ironically, the average of those 4 districts averaged what we pay for extra duties in our district as well. So the rate I came up with is $20.50 an hour to substitute if teachers are asked to during their prep period. So this language did go to the ERT. We had a few recommendations and we added some additional language in defining what that prep period is. So next step is board. This would not be on consent until October 12th, but then would go into effect immediately thereafter. Any questions?
And I think as a currently practice has been, a building principal might just ask a staff member to take an extra class and do that. And so with no compensation. And so this is recognizing that this might happen a lot more often and that sort of thing. So.
Correct. Even during, right now, when we really don't have many teachers in our buildings or students in our buildings, with the absences we do have, is proving very difficult to find subs even now. So we're just learning that there's many subs who aren't comfortable coming into the buildings. So this would just be a greater opportunity to utilize our own staff and provide them the compensation for completing that task.
Any other questions? Thank you, Melissa. And then staffing update, a contact tracer.
All right.
Melissa.
The next item I have tonight is a recommendation to add a new limited term position. This position would be titled as a contact tracer. So these past 6 months have been proven to be filled not only with our regular job responsibilities, but also all of the pieces of the puzzle that come along with COVID. And along with that is all of the cases we are now experiencing and the contact tracing that goes along with those. So as we're seeing staff and students in our buildings and positive cases among those staff and students, there's a lot of work that goes into determining who is a close contact of those people that are in our buildings and while they were in our buildings. So we completely understand that as we bring more staff and students back into our buildings, that is not going to be something that myself or Jill or Matt in Student Services can do on our own. So the recommendation is up to 29 hours a week for a contact tracer to assist myself and Matt with the contact tracing for staff and students. This position could be daytime hours, it could be evenings, it could be weekends. COVID doesn't only appear during 9 to 5 business days. So there's lots of work sometimes that we're doing on weekends as well. And really just ensuring that we're getting this done in a timely manner does require this position to be more flexible. So the pay rate follows that of our specialists in our business office and instructional services type positions. Those we are seeking, I have the job description if you'd like that as well. Really preference someone with a medical background if we have that available. But there would be training required to go through some contact tracing courses before they would begin that position as well. So.
Any questions? So Melissa, are you working with the county to get that training for them?
There's actually a program through Johns Hopkins University that is online. That is a course that's available. Several of other districts around, I think, have sent some of their contact tracers or nurses to that program as well, just to learn more about that program. So.
Okay, thank you so very much. I think that's it. Okay, we're ready to move on to the consent agenda. There are 7 items on the consent agenda this evening. Are there any that you would like to have pulled and considered separately? Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as published.
So moved.
Anita, is there a second?
Second.
Barb, okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as published. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Then we'll call on board members for reports and discussion, and we will start with Anita.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, Chris?
I guess I'd just like to thank the teams and leaders for their thorough and thoughtfulness on their preparedness to get students back into the buildings. That's a lot of hard work, and it seems like we are well positioned to get back in there when we finally can. So thank you to those guys, the teams and the leaders.
Thank you, Chris. Rebecca?
Just a real quick thank you to the staff that are doing the meal deliveries to staff. That sounds like a really good idea, kind of fun, something exciting. And then happy school board week to all you guys too.
Thank you, Rebecca. Barb?
Thank you to everyone who served on the Memorial Wall Committee, and I'm just really pleased with the positive work that was done and the positive conclusion.
Thank you, Barb. Brian?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, Trenton?
Yeah, I just have something to say. As with the COVID pandemic and all that, it presents a really difficult decision and situation for the school board to make about going back in school or going virtual and things like that. And obviously the students want to get back as soon as possible. But I would just like to commemorate all the people and hardworking employees that have tried to build a solid plan. And same with the committee. It's really nice to have a group of committed people that are really willing to make the school district better. So I just would like to thank them.
Thank you, Trenton. Gary?
I'd just like to thank everybody for all the hard work, and it kind of had my head spinning with all the programs and everything going on at the same time, but God bless every one of them.
Absolutely. Well, I just had a couple things, in addition to thanking everybody who presented this evening, and Dr. Mueller for your leadership in this very changing time. The target is always moving, and it's great to have someone at the helm that is helping guide people in a very positive way. You know, we've had many discussions about the impact it's had for the young people, and Dr. Mueller, having her own children in the district, you know, feels that every day. And yet we've had good conversations about ensuring the safety of all of our students and staff as best as we can. And so that keeps being our guiding light on when we're going to be ready to go. And if things turn around here, we may be a week or so off, and that wouldn't be bad compared to some of the other schools that have had to open up in person and then turn around a week, less than a week later, and go to virtual, and all of the stuff that is involved in that. So hopefully we'll be guided and we'll be able to go in person soon, but again, when it's safe. I just wanted to mention, Stacy, we're ready to work on the committee assignments. We'd like to have committees start to meet in October. I know some of the, there's some policies, things that need to be worked on. And so one last call for you to share with Stacy if you would like to change committees from last year. I know we've had just a couple people say that, so if you just want to double check with her to make sure that you're asking for the appropriate committees, and then we'll get that assigned. And I would just remind everyone that one of our values is inclusiveness, and we want to make sure we include the stakeholders in decision making, and part of that is making sure they serve on these board committees. So we will be looking, I know Finance Committee, for example, could use a couple more people. It's a very small committee and always could use maybe some expertise from the community, that sort of thing. Having said that, I did have an opportunity to present to the group of young folks that came from the diversity committee. I met with them via Zoom. They were asking about committees. I had shared with them that if they would like to serve on a committee, it would be nice to have some diversity on our board committees. And they're very interested. They just feel like they're getting organized. And so they're going to wait to join any committees, although they did, and Mr. Sackett, maybe you could help with this. They did suggest maybe a parent, if parents that have expressed interest. So if you wouldn't mind reaching out to them, and just Stacy can share with you the committees that maybe there would be some interest in some of the parents joining some of our committees. And then they would like to receive a copy of the agendas and the minutes, though, so that they can discuss those. So I thought that would be great. We will send those through their advisor, and she can share with them the minutes of our meetings and agenda. So I was really pleased. I talked with them for about 15 minutes, and then they excused me, and I left so that they could have their own discussion. And I was happy with what I heard back. So I will share with them that will be absolutely no problem with sharing the minutes and the agendas for those committee meetings. So yeah, so good progress on that front. I would just note that we have board meetings coming up. Find my written script here, my written copy. The 6th is the WASB virtual fall regional meeting. And I think we may have all received information on how to register for that. So if you want to take a look at that, October 12th and is our next regular board meeting. And then again, we have super board meeting on October 26th. So we'll start at 6 with the budget hearing, and then the annual meeting, and then the board meeting in case we need to follow up with anything. So those are just note, those are the upcoming meetings that we have. And unless there's anything else to come before the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Anita, is there a second? Chris, okay, motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or waving.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you so very much. Have a good rest of your evening, everyone.
You do.